If you enjoy Italian cuisine, you're going to really enjoy my guest today. I am interviewing Melissa Maggiore, who's the daughter of Tomaso Maggiore, who's really one of the iconic chefs here in Arizona. And Melissa has followed in her father's footsteps to open several restaurants. One, the Italian Daughter, and today she's going to talk about her latest venture, which is Patricia's Pizza, named after her mom. And it's going to be super fun to hear from her, find out these family stories. And by the way, on the podcast today, I'm going to let her know that I've got the family meatball recipe. I hope you enjoy hearing from Melissa right here. Thanks, Melissa, for being here with me today. I'm so excited. We're going to talk Italian cuisine.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's all I ever talk about, so this should be fun.
Well, it's great. So at Iconic, we love talking about food, design, travel, and style, but food is one of my most favorites. And I have to tell you, your family has a special place in my heart because I knew your dad way back when.
Oh.
And really cute thing, I used to go to Tomaso's all the time, and I talked him into teaching me how to make meatballs.
Oh.
Yeah, which was really great. So it took a couple of different visits, but
Did he give you the real recipe?
I don't know. I always wondered if I had the actual family recipe. He said it was, but I'm like, I know there's a secret ingredient that's probably missing.
I hope so, or else you have my recipe now, and I'm going to have to do something about it.
Oh, no. Call in a friend.
That's cute. Yeah.
No, so sweet. So he has a special place in my heart. I've always been really interested in cuisine, and he's been, a legacy chef in this community. And so wonderful for you to follow in that legacy. And you've had great success yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Italian Daughter and then also Patricia's Pizza. But
Perfect.
I've been to the Italian Daughter many, many times.
Thank you.
That is
Thank
a
you.
booming restaurant.
Thank you. You know what? I'm blessed. I moved back to Arizona when my father was sick. My restaurant career was in California, and I came back and then realized he wasn't getting any better, and so decided to stay here with my family. And I was looking at restaurant spots, and that spot was actually his restaurant. At the time, it was called When in Rome. And he said, Melissa, just take that spot. And I said, I don't know, Papa, it's really far north. I don't know. And then my brother was saying, don't take that spot. It's slow up there. And I said, no, Papa really wants me to take it. And so I was kind of thinking about whether or not to take it. And my father felt so good about that location that I just, as he got sicker one day, I said, you know what, Papa, I'm going to open that restaurant. And he was so happy. And he knew that it was going to be successful. And I think that he's watching over me, to be honest.
I'm sure that he is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great success. I mean, truth be told, like I have a hard time getting in there because it's so busy. So
well, now
I
you
think
know me, so just call me. I'll give you my cell.
That's what this podcast is for. Yeah,
I knew there was a reason I was asked.
I want that cell number. So let's just go back to the very beginning. So where did your love for food and restaurateurism come from?
So I think whether you're in a restaurant family or not, as an Italian, you are raised with a love of food. Everything is revolved around food around the table. When you're eating breakfast, they're wondering what they're cooking for lunch. When they're eating lunch, they're wondering what they're cooking for dinner. The more, the merrier. So from an early age, I traveled to Italy, and I really just learned the beauty of Italian cooking. In my early years and in my college years, I didn't want to be in the restaurant business. I had a knack for it, and I had the passion my father had and the passion for guest service that was taught to me, but I wanted to be a journalist. And after I kind of segued out of the restaurant business a little bit, that's when it pulled me back in like the mafia. I missed it. Like once you're in, you can't get out.
Yeah.
And it was just something ingrained in me. Italian hospitality has been ingrained in me my entire life. And obviously that translates well into the restaurant business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a warm, gracious style.
Yes.
So what was your first kind of formal, now I'm in the restaurant business?
Well, I always worked in my father's restaurants. And in 95, I was here. I went to Arcadia High School. I went to ASU. And in 95, my father said that he was opening a restaurant in Coronado. And would I go out there and open it for him? So I went out there and did. And then we found this little location in La Jolla. And my father said, I think you should open this restaurant. I was engaged to my first husband at the time, who was a chef. And my father said, I think you two should take this spot. And we opened it in La Jolla Shores. And that's kind of what started my solo career, was that restaurant in La Jolla.
And then what happened after that one? So how long did you have that? And is it still there? Because I feel like
I sold
there.
it. Yeah. I sold it in 2007. Shocker, two feisty Italians in the same restaurant. The marriage didn't last. And so we went our separate ways in 2007, and I opened up another restaurant called Zabibo in Encinitas. And then I opened up Tommy V's Urban Kitchen in Carlsbad, which wound up being the emphasis of a Food Network show called Family Style, which my brother and I did together. And I was running that restaurant there along with a little pizzeria in the San Diego airport until my father got sick. I sold Zabibo, I sold La Bruschetta, I sold Tommy V's, and I came here.
And then that was
2018.
Okay, and then that was when you opened the Italian Daughter. A little bit after that,
A little bit after that. I opened the Italian Daughter in 2021. My father passed away in January, and I opened in April.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, we still miss him for sure.
I do too, every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
So what are some of your philosophies around ingredients? I know you're very particular.
I am. You know what? I believe in quality, and every ingredient that needs to be from Italy is imported from Italy. I'm very specific about plate presentation. I'm very specific about what ingredients go into every dish that we make. I want to make sure that I'm always honoring the traditions that I grew up with and honoring my father's legacy by doing that. It drives some of my staff absolutely crazy because I have very high expectations that they tease me and say can never be met, but they've been met. My staff's doing a great job. So I think they understand my philosophy now. And it comes from my dad. And to be honest, some of the ways I operate are antiquated. They're old school, just like he was. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm kind of I'm an old soul that way.
That's cool. What are some of your favorite memories working with him?
I mean, I think it'd be easier to say what were your least favorite memories, which actually I don't have any of those either. Every time I was with my dad, he was full of life and passion, and he absolutely loved what he did, and he loved this community so much. And it was always apparent how much they loved him, but never more so than after he passed away. And even today, when I get the honor of serving people that he served for 30 and 40 years, you know, it's a double-edged sword because it's hard to listen to the stories because it breaks my heart that he's gone. But it's been a way that it's been very cathartic to hear those stories. And everyone comes in and has their own story about my father, just as you just did.
Yeah.
And yet he was so humble. And I just miss him. I miss his funny sense of humor. And I mean, he was the light in any room. And I'm sure he was flirting left and right while you made those meatballs because that's just who he was. He was just like bigger than life guy.
Always so friendly. You know, so there are some chefs that like to stay back in the kitchen, and there's some chefs that love to be front of house all the time.
Yes.
And he was the guy that was watching over his kitchen with, you know, like an iron fist kind of thing, and out greeting his guests all the time. He was so warm and friendly, and he knew everybody, and he had like an iconic number of regulars.
Yes.
I mean, there are people, that's my table, that's my time, that's my day.
And he knew everything they ate, and he knew, you know, even after he died, we recently had, when was the Super Bowl here? A year ago, 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
one night, Shaquille O'Neal came into Tomaso's, and the server went up to the table, and I said something to the fact of, oh, just, you know, Tommy always makes me this thing. And then we had to tell him Tommy passed away. But my father always had these special things that he made for all of his special guests, and he just did everything with love. He didn't have a recipe. I would call him and ask him, how do you make this? Oh, just put a little of this and a little of that. And of course it never, I'm trying to do it justice. It doesn't always turn out that way, but my father was funny. I think that's what I miss the most, just laughing and having this camaraderie, because this isn't an easy business, especially post-COVID. And so I would love to be able to pick up the phone and call him and ask him questions, which I can't do.
Yeah.
But I live on the memories.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Well, and just like you said, living on the memories is great. And he set kind of a great formula. I mean, he was always successful with pretty much everything he did. He had that restaurant he had the Tomaso's that was in Chandler too.
Yes.
And so I feel like, it was just kind of a combination or a formula that just always worked.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people who travel the world, love to talk about eating food in Italy. You've heard everybody talks about this, right? I go to Italy, I eat the bread, I eat the pasta. Maybe I'm gluten sensitive here in the United States, but I go to Italy and I eat it all. And then you never gain weight.
Yes.
And you're just walking all the time, but that the ingredients are so good. So how are some of those ingredients trickling back to your restaurants?
It's a little bit harder to do that at the Italian Daughter because the menu is so big and diverse. But Patricia's Pizza, my newest concept, really pays tribute to that. First of all, it's the gluten, and it's the way we process the gluten in our pasta, in our bread, in our flour. So you can go to Italy and eat an entire pizza for lunch and dinner and not gain a pound. First of all, you're walking everywhere. But secondly, the ingredients are clean.
Yeah.
It's clean living at its finest. There's not a lot of chemicals are banned there. The flour's processed differently. So the gluten, it's celiac friendly. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you're on a gluten-free diet, you can eat my pizza with no problem whatsoever. And I'm not a doctor, so I shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. And whenever I come back from Italy, I'm lighter, and I've never felt so good in my life. The vegetables, the fruit, everything's clean.
Yeah.
Everything's just clean and organic and fresh.
Yeah. I love that you have brought that to America. And so I know there's maybe a couple of other places that do things like this, but whenever I hear somebody who is having that level of ingredient integrity, I love it. Being somebody who really struggles with gluten, I don't eat pizza. Like, pizza isn't a part of my world anymore.
Right.
So when you say this, I'm like, I'm in my car this weekend with my son who also can't eat pizza, and we will go eat the pizza and we will love it. Because
you can eat my wood-fired pizza. You can't eat my Sicilian pizza because that flour is different. But yes, and we'll walk you through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really wonderful. What other, I know you travel a lot. What are some of the influences from around the world that you've brought back to your two restaurants now?
I love to travel. I go to Italy annually and I come back with ideas, but I also travel, I'd like to say that I bring back a little influence everywhere I go. I was just in France recently, and I was in Scotland where they do phenomenal seafood. So I love to see what other people are doing and kind of put an Italian twist on it. Trying to think, whether it's something crazy like an Italian taco, or we just added Italian sushi to our menu, which has a little bit of crudo and prosciutto and a little risotto versus just the regular rice. So we're always trying to incorporate a little twist on the world cuisine.
That's fun, like a really modern take. Are there any food trends that you're following? Are there things that are happening where you're like, I got to be a part of that?
There are a lot of, with TikTok and with social media, everything's trending, right? But it's funny because it's things that have been going on in Italy forever. Right now, some things that are big. Pizza's actually real. I mean, it's always been big, but it's even bigger now. This kind of Neapolitan movement with this gluten-friendly flour. But the red carbonara is a big thing right now. Nerano, which is just a small little simple dish from the Amalfi Coast with zucchini and provolone del Monaco. That's kind of big right now here. So we're always kind of keeping up with what's new in Italy.
That's fun.
Pizza with hot dogs and French fries is a big deal in Italy right now. So
really,
that's on my menu right now as well. We'll see how it goes over, but
wow, that's just the best of everything.
It's really weird, but it tastes good.
Wow. Well, I
don't even like hot dogs.
What's that all about? So your team is really very gracious because you also, again, in your father's tradition, you have a lot of regulars.
I do.
I've got some friends who are regulars. Yeah. And your team, your staff knows all the people. So how have you sort of led that charge on the hospitality front to teach your team to be good like that?
Yeah. Well, of course, food is the most important thing, but parallel to that is guest experience and hospitality. And my entire staff knows that. I will go above and beyond. I tell them all the time, think of this as a yacht. we don't say no.
Yeah.
They want it, we're going to do it, and we're going to figure out how to do it. That's how I was raised. That's how my father was, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And when people come into the restaurant, I want them to feel like they're at my home. I know everybody by name. I, have things in the kitchen that we don't have on the menu just for Dino, who comes in 3 times a week. And I kind of want it to be like Cheers a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to go where we know their name. It's true. And we try to do that at the Italian Daughter and at Patricia's.
Yeah. So how did you decide that you were going to open Patricia's? And I know this has been named after your mom.
It is named after my mom. I've always wanted to open a pizza place. My father started out in pizza, and I always just in my head, I want a pizzeria. And my dad kept saying, oh, forget about the pizzeria. You just have one restaurant, you're fine. But I had it in my head that I wanted to do it. And I found a location up by my house. And I was thinking one day, what should I name this restaurant? And I was going to name it something completely different. And I just had this light bulb go off in my head that I should call it Patricia's Pizza, which was the name of my father's first restaurant.
Oh, I love that.
My mom, Patricia, so many people know my dad's name. My mom was kind of more behind the scenes, and they don't realize just how instrumental she was in his career and in our career. And my dad moved to this country when he was 19. Within 6 months, he opened up his first pizza place in Garnerville, New York. It was predominantly to go. He named it Patricia's after my mom. And the two of them worked together. And that's really where this all started. I mean, that's my legacy. Patricia's Pizza was the start of my legacy and my brother's legacy. And I wanted to showcase that and really just emphasize my mom, because she also deserves a little bit of tribute.
That's awesome.
A lot of tribute.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that it came full circle all the way around.
My dad would be laughing in a very good way right now. He used to say out of all of his success, his best memories were in that little pizza place.
Aw.
I get choked up. Sorry.
Aw.
I knew I wasn't going to get through this interview without crying, but I feel him in there, and I think he'd laugh. I mean, the pictures on the wall, it's him throwing a pizza when he was 18, 19 years old. And pictures of he and my mom on their honeymoon. And it's really nice to, I feel like he's in there.
That's really special. That's really, really special.
Yeah. But I didn't have his pizza recipe. So actually for his Sicilian New York style pizza, my dad sold Patricia's to a really nice family who then sold it to someone else. And my Aunt Doreen still lives in Garnerville, and she knows the gentleman who bought it, and he still uses my dad's recipe. So I called him and I said, can you please give me this recipe? And so he gave me the recipe to my dad's original Sicilian pie.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I just love, so this is the thing that takes a restaurant that could be a box that serves food to making it a very homey place where further memories are created. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. I do too.
Yeah, that's really super special. Well, now that you've come full circle, I feel like you should just put a period at the end of that sentence and stop. But you've got more to do. What's next for you?
I am looking for another location for a new Patricia's Pizza. My son, Francesco, is following in my footsteps and in actually my father's footsteps. He's cooking, he's learning the kitchen. And so I'm looking for another Patricia's for him to run and to catapult him on his journey that my dad and mom catapulted me on.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Super awesome. Well, wishing him a lot of luck and a lot of years for both of you to run some really wonderful restaurants. Thanks for being a part of our community. And by the way, so as it relates to the community, you've been great about giving back. And again, that was something that also your dad, I'm going to say parents now, were really committed to. And so what are some of the things that you, that your heart is called to support?
I try to be under the radar with these things. I really do it from the bottom of my heart, but I am really involved and feel a calling to give back to people that are affected by cancer. So I've done a lot of that, whether it's assisting families just individually that are going through things and preparing meals for them, or having fundraisers. Cancer is something that unfortunately affects, I dare I say, all of us at some point. And I'm really involved in that because I know exactly what they're going through right now, and I want to give back. And I feel blessed to be able to do what I do. So I also do a lot for helping hands for single moms. I was a single mom after my divorce. I raised both of my kids alone until I was remarried. I think it's hard for women because we struggle to figure out how we're going to do all of it, have a career, and raise kids. And so I do a lot for that community as well, because I feel like somebody needs to help. It's not easy. It's not easy being a woman, single, trying to get it all together. So I'm happy to do things like that.
A lot of things tugging for attention, for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to totally go check out Patricia's Pizza this weekend.
Please
I can't wait to go up, and we're going to be writing about it in the magazine.
I look forward to it. You got to let me know when you're coming, and don't forget to call me for the Italian daughter, because now
I will.
Now you have an in.
Now I've got the connection. But you're not gonna put a hit out on me for the meatball recipe, right?
We agree on this? I am going to have you sign an NDA before I leave here.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the pod today, Melissa.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, that's the pod. Thanks for joining me this week. Please make sure to subscribe to the podcast and hit the bell so that you never miss an episode. And for more about Iconic Life, please go to iconiclife.com. Until next time, I'm Renee D. We'll see you soon.